session, and we have a scheduled work session, and got Mr. Crumple up here to talk to us about it.
At a previous meeting, the Board of Commissioners had asked the planning board to take a look at highway corridors and rezone some areas that were already existing zoning along our new US 70 bypass, I-795 corridor, south US 117 corridor, as well as west US 70 highway. So we put together a proposed zoning map. The zoning map is pretty much a 300-foot buffer on each side of the existing highways. And we put into place community shopping zoning where there was vacant land. Where there was not vacant land, we put into place, if it was residential, we zoned it residential, so that we didn't create any non-conforming uses. What this does is it allows along US 70, these corridors, it allows us to enforce use restrictions. It allows us to enforce setbacks from the highway. In a case where you have a commercial business going into adjacent to a residential neighborhood, it allows us to enforce a buffer requirement between the uses. Those are the types of things, as well as it allows potential uses. So, like I say, we looked at West US 70 Highway, we looked at the new US 70 bypass, which was NC 44, we looked at I-795, and we looked at South US 117 Highway. This project consists of both rezoning and the creation of some new zoning areas. And it was basically a 300-foot buffer of the corridors up to those interchanges, and then we picked up property lines around those interchanges where it was reasonable that development may occur and zoned around those interchanges. The purpose of the zoning is to promote health, safety, morals, and welfare by regulating the height, the number of structures, size of buildings and other structures, the percentage of the lot that may be occupied, the size of the yards, courts, and other open spaces, and the density of population, their location, the use of buildings, structures, and land for trade, industry, residence, or other purposes. The only exception to this is farming. Farming is agricultural is an allowed use in any zone, so nothing is affected, or agricultural is not affected by that. And we establish these boundaries for said purposes to provide penalties for violation of the zoning ordinance and for other purposes. Now, the first area we're looking at up here on the map is East US 70 Highway proposed zoning. This is the NC 44 corridor. And you'll notice areas up there that are highlighted with a green outline. This is all a rezoning here in this area. The tan area that you see on the western side of the map is the Goldsboro extraterritorial jurisdiction. The City of Goldsboro has zoning jurisdiction in that area, and it doesn't affect the county, so we have no regulations that we can enforce there. But where that ETJ area drops off, we had existing zoning in there, which we controlled the height of structures. We're proposing to change the zoning from height districts to CS, village, or residential RA20 if it had a single-family residence on it. The area right there in the center that you see, the multicolored area with blue, that is the 13 interchange. We zoned that in 2000. The Board of Commissioners zoned that in 2008 as part of this project, and we went over by petition, and the petitioners were Raintree subdivision. They asked for zoning, and they petitioned and created that as a new zoning district. Continuing down the corridor, you head down to the Parkstown Road interchange. We pick up, that is a 300-foot buffer along that road all the way down to the Parkstown Road interchange. You pick up some RA20. You pick up some CS community shopping. There will be an interchange there. You're now getting into the area that was zoned due to its location with Eastern Wayne High School and Eastern Wayne Elementary School. That's been in place. That yellow around it has been there for quite a number of years. Dropping further down on the map into the purple, that's getting into an airport district. We're changing that zone from a residential use to a community shopping use. If you'll go to map number 2 of 2. That Parkstown interchange is back up to your left top corner. You're continuing across the airport zoning for the base. The areas highlighted in yellow, all are being converted over to CS. That's a 300-foot buffer continuing. It continues on past the New Hope Road, North Beston Road, New Hope Road, on to the Lenoir County line. If you have any questions on this section of the proposed zoning, we'll be ready to try to answer them.
Any questions for Chip?
Okay, moving on to the next area, we go to West US 70 Highway. This is partially a rezoning. If you'll remember back probably 2-3 months ago, we did part of this zoning around the new Walmart. You'll see the 581 interchange there. Of course, Goldsboro ETJ is on the right-hand side of the map, on the eastern side of the map. Our zoning picks up and it heads there. That's the 581 70 interchange with Walmart. We have CS zoning in place there on the south side and north side of that existing intersection. Along our 44 corridor, we're proposing CS and a 300-foot buffer. Continuing down the existing 70 highway to the Johnson County line. Now, where there are residential houses or residential subdivisions, we zone those residential to keep from them having a non-conforming use. So in the future, if they were to go to a bank or to sell their property, they wouldn't have a problem with a real estate appraisal or loan financing terms because of a non-conforming use. So we didn't want to create any non-conforming uses. If it was a vacant land, we converted it to CS. That will allow us, a lot of that property is, being developed as commercial as it is now. If we had a commercial development come in there next to some residential uses, we can now, with this type of zoning in place, we can enforce a buffer on site when they submit their site plan. This zoning, the county has actually been looking at zoning this section of 70 highway for probably 10 years. In previous attempts, the area they were zoning was going to be proposed was larger. So I think this is in pretty much the same thing we did on East 70 Highway years ago. They used pretty much primarily a 300-foot buffer on each side of the highway, and that's how we came up with that 300-foot. Going on to the next map is 795.
Is that the one you want, Jim?
Okay. We'll use the South US 117 here. This is a South US 117 when you leave the fairgrounds. That is the intersection of 117 alternate there. The fairgrounds is just up here to the north, just off the map. The cemetery is located there. Heading south along 117 is controlled access. You're converting this RA 30 to community shopping in that vacant area. Heading further south in that residential agricultural 20 zone, you're converting that to CS. This again is a 300-foot buffer. And you're heading down towards the bottom of the map. There's green on the left-hand side. That was already zoned light industry. So we're leaving that alone. There's some mobile home parks on the right-hand side that are adjacent to the highway. Those are staying residential agricultural so that they are conforming. You pick up vacant land on the right-hand side, you're converting back to CS down to the Sleepy Creek O'Berry Road intersection. That is a proposed interchange there, so you are zoning around that future interchange that's being developed there with CS. Heading further south, you see an area there that is staying zoned. The yellow areas over here to the right, those are zoned through the schools. You pick up some zoning for Georgia Pacific over here, light industry. You have some village district up there inside of Dudley, that's in the commercial areas of Dudley. But back out on 117 headed south, further south, you still have a 300-foot corridor. You're coming down to your intersection with Country Club. There is a proposed interchange there. You're picking up zoning around that interchange. And then ending the tan area at the bottom of the map is the Mount Olive extraterritorial jurisdiction. So they have zoning jurisdiction out to that point. The county's not involved with it. Okay, that handles South US 117. The next highway is the I-795. There you go. Okay, this, if you'll scan down to the bottom. Okay, this picks up, there's the Goldsboro ETJ. There's our existing zoning around the Goldsboro Wayne Executive Jetport. And of course, you have the city limits mixed in there. The dash line is the city limits. Scanning up, this is a rezoning. We are rezoning from OH to CS. Picking up a 300-foot buffer either side. We are zoning all the way over to the railroad on the right-hand side of the highway, all the way up to the Pikeville ETJ. Inside of that, Pikeville has zoning, and they have zoning jurisdiction. 795 continues up. The dash lines are the town of Pikeville. Our Charles B. Aycock zoning is on the right-hand side. Out here, we're 795 between Pikeville's ETJ and Fremont's ETJ. We are going to propose CS on both sides of that highway there. That handles 795. There is an amount of area north of Fremont that is not adjacent to an existing zoning area. So if the county were to go up there and propose zoning north of Fremont's ETJ, you would have to create a new zoning area that is, I believe, 640 acres and contains at least 10 properties. So it'd be quite a large area proposed if you wanted to create a new zoning area there. So if you have any questions on those, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Yes, sir.
That, on the 795 we're looking at?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Crump, what is that, up at the, Pikeville area? What's that, red, yellow circle there? Is that the MPO boundary? or
Where at
that?
now?
Yeah, the large yellow circle there.
Oh, that is the ETJ for Pikeville.
ETJ for, okay, that's the ETJ.
Yes.
Which, that's not the same as the MPO?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, the ETJ is an area 1 mile outside of Pikeville's jurisdiction. Towns have
I
a
got you.
zoning up to 1 mile.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment I want to make to Mr. Wood and the marshal. I don't think it'd break the county to get a laser pointer, so when he's showing us
I
this
got
stuff.
one, but
It will not work on those
It won't work on the
screens.
TV screen. It soaks the laser in.
Well, you just need to get a long pointer then.
I'll be glad to go over there and point out.
Well, no, I just, you know all this.
I know.
It has to sink in with us.
And unfortunately, my pointer doesn't show up when it gets on the colors over here. So
Okay, all right, well, y'all try it.
Looks like an IT problem, right?
What's our next step here?
Well, the notices were run in the newspaper, signs are posted around, and mailers have been put out. So you'll have a public hearing at the next meeting to receive public comment on
It was in yesterday's newspaper.
Yeah.
it. And it will be in one more time.
So we don't take any action today?
No, it's just a work session. If you
Okay.
have any questions or if you need any additional explanation, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Any more- Go ahead.
The section north of Fremont up to the Wilson County line, can you explain that just a little?
Okay.
I kinda,
Because Wayne County is not zoned completely. It's a
Right.
partially zoned county. So anytime a partially zoned county wants to go out and create a new zoning area, it has to create a minimum area. That minimum area is 640 acres, which has to contain at least 10 different property owners. The map here that you have that was around Rain Tree, which was the 70 East, let's see, 70 East map 1.
Okay.
That area around Rain Tree, up there on the top underneath the label, that is about a 640 square acre area. So it's quite a large area. And you would involve more than a 300-foot buffer either side of the highway to get 640 acres. You would be involving multiple properties to zone that just for the purposes of changing CS, which is not the intention. So I left it off being that you'd be creating a new zoning district. See, what we can do, and a lot of these, or most of these are rezonings. Only the 70 West is a new zoning area. But see, we're extending a zoning area down 70 West. We're not creating a new zoning area. So whenever you create a new one, it has to be a larger area, and that would involve more properties than I think we would, unless you want me to do it.
No, you answered my question.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Chair.
Mr.
I'm sorry.
So that area, the interchange and everything up at Fremont on 795 is taken care of, but there's really not a reason, there's not any major roads or transportation or anything between Fremont and the county line that would really justify zoning anything at this time.
No, that's correct.
Okay.
And the interchange at Fremont is inside of their ETJ.
That's
It's covered under their zone.
That is correct. Okay, thank you.
Same thing at Pike.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anything else we need to cover today, Mr. Wood? Anybody else got any comments? That's everything. What I'd like to do is, because we do have some additional business that we could complete today, I'd like to recess this meeting and reconvene Friday morning at 9 a.m. Thank you, gentlemen.